Today's episode brought to you once again by Conduit Clothing Company, and I'm just telling you, you have no excuse. I've been telling you about our friends at Conduit Clothing for months now. We're in the Christmas shopping season, and quite frankly, if you haven't checked out Conduit Clothing Company's excellent catalog of high-quality clothing with that cool logo, you are doing yourself a disservice. They make an excellent Christmas gift because it's great clothing, high-quality clothing you're going to want to wear over and over again. That logo is really cool, and it's meaningful. It gives you the opportunity, challenges you to share the gospel wherever you may be. Plus, they've got a couple of new items you'll want to check out, including a new era ribbed tailgate beanie with that Conduit Clothing logo. You'll want to check that out as well. Visit their entire catalog of clothing, like I said, at conduitclothing.com. Use the promo code AMUpdate for 10% off of your order at conduitclothing.com, where you can also find out what it means to be a conduit for Christ. Conduitclothing.com. It's conduitclothing.com. Use promo code AMUpdate. It is Monday, December 8th, 2025. The Supreme Court will hear a massive case, not again in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a Democrat accuses a Jew of being a Nazi. That's coming up next on the AM Update. The U.S. Supreme Court agreed Friday to hear arguments for and against President Trump's order to end birthright citizenship. The Trump administration appealed a lower court order that struck down the restrictions in July over a class action lawsuit filed by the ACLU on behalf of children affected by the policy. Trump issued the Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship executive order on his first day in office of his second term. The order prohibits granting citizenship to persons born in the country to mothers illegally or temporarily in the United States and whose father is not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. Opponents of birthright citizenship says it stems from a false reading of the 14th Amendment, which was intended to apply only to former slaves when it was ratified in 1868 after the Civil War. Supporters of the policy point to long-standing precedent of automatically granting citizenship to babies born in America. I'm just telling you, this might be one of the biggest cases, if not the biggest case, before the Supreme Court, maybe ever. It rivals Roe in the overturning of Roe. No, if you're flying to the United States from the United Kingdom and you just happen to give birth on board a plane in United States airspace, does that make that baby a citizen? Shouldn't be, but that's basically the logic of birthright citizenship. This harkened back to an interview Vice President J.D. Vance gave to the New York Times back in May of this year, where he discussed this and many other policies and what it's like for the American people to have their voices heard and implemented into policy, particularly on the issue of immigration.
You cannot have a country where the American people keep on electing immigration enforcement, and the courts tell the American people they're not allowed to have what they voted for. And that's where we are right now. We're going to keep working it through the immigration court process, through the Supreme Court as much as possible. And look, success to me is not so much a number, though obviously I'd love to see the gross majority of the illegal immigrants who came in under Biden deported. That actually is a secondary metric of success. Success to me is that we have established a set of rules and principles that the courts are comfortable with and that we have the infrastructure to do that allows us to deport large numbers of illegal aliens.
That's J.D. Vance's interview with the New York Times from earlier this year, harkening back to if you're a citizen of the United States, you vote for immigration enforcement, and then you have the courts saying, no, you can't have that. Well, that's a recipe for disaster, and one of the biggest bugaboos when it comes to illegal immigration, anchor babies, birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court will indeed hear that case. The Supreme Court also temporarily approved the redistricting map for Texas for the midterm elections over dissent of the liberal justices. The 5-3 partisan vote means Republicans will likely gain several seats from Texas. The decision blocks a lower court injunction just as politicians begin to qualify for elections in the state. The court has not yet issued a permanent decision on the lawsuit, claiming that the redistricting effort pushed by Republicans is discriminatory and unlawful. Republicans hope the redrawn map will lead to 5 additional seats in the U.S. House. Democrats have countered with their own redistricting maps in places like California as well. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says Republicans in Congress need to get off of their butts, and he provided a roadmap for how they can do that in the new year, heading up to the midterm elections.
Economy, immigration. Like, we don't talk about immigration as much as we were maybe when Biden was letting it in. The border is secure. We've stopped the influx. He's now working on a moratorium of new people coming in, particularly from some of these countries where the people are hostile. That's a huge victory for people. They need to be talking about that and go even bolder on that. I just think you got to be bold. I think you got to be strong. And I think one of the frustrations with the Congress is, what have they done since August till now? They really haven't done anything, right? And it's like, if I were, I'd be like every day coming out with something new and make the Democrats go on the record, show the contrast. Think about why we've been able to win big in Florida is because there's a very sharp contrast to what we're doing and what what the liberal Democrats stand for. Parents' rights, illegal immigration, tax cut, anything you can think of. Most voters knew we were on their side, and I think you got to really make that sharp. But I would tell you, the Democrats, they caused a lot of this with the inflation, and now they're acting like it was like they had nothing to do with it.
Oh, you do good on the couch. You got to come in more often.
That is a great idea from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. It is malpractice that this Republican-led Congress, allegedly, it is malpractice. They have not gotten Democrats just on single-issue bills over and over again, gotten them on the record, making them defend their crazy positions on a variety of issues. Speaking of a crazy position on a critical issue, Pope Leo discussed the influx of Islamic immigration into Europe and says he's critical of Catholics who don't like policies allowing such immigration from Muslim-majority countries.
All of the conversations that I had during my time both in Turkey and in Lebanon, including with many Muslims, were precisely concentrated on the topic of peace and respect for people of different religions. I know that, as a matter of fact, that has not always been the case. I know that in Europe there are many times fears that are present but oftentimes generated by people who are against immigration and trying to keep out people who may be from another country, another religion, another race.
You say that like it's a bad thing, Pope Leo. He just completely dismisses fears about immigration and rising Islam in Europe, basically saying those fuddy-duddies, they don't know what they're talking about. They're fearing over people's religion. Well, you should. Islam is not compatible with the West. Just asked Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who went to CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday, to discuss the real victims of the Somali fraud scandal in her state of Little Somalia.
Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent, and that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota.
So the real victims of the Somali fraud scandal in Minnesota, Somalians, according to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Also, she had these words to say about White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
I want to ask you about something else that the architect of the president's immigration policy, Stephen Miller, said. On Thanksgiving Day, he posted, "No magic transformation occurs when failed states cross borders. At scale, migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and terrors of their broken homelands." What do you make of this argument of failure to assimilate and sort of ruining America? How do you understand this?
I mean, when I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people.
Ilhan Omar says that Stephen Miller, who is in fact himself a Jew, is just like the Nazis and how the Nazis treated the Jews. Stephen Miller, your thoughts? Here he is on Fox News.
Based on what we have found so far, we believe that the Somali fraud operation in Minnesota is the single greatest theft of taxpayer dollars through welfare fraud in American history. We believe that we have only scratched the very top of the surface of how deep this goes. And you're familiar with all the scams with pretending that children have autism who are not in fact autistic, with pretending to enroll people in food programs when in fact nobody was ever enrolled, and engaging in massive fraud, lying, and theft and grift on a scale we've never seen before in American history. The total bill, the total tab for this is going to be far beyond the numbers we've already seen reported. We believe the state government is fully complicit in this scheme, and we believe that what we are going to uncover is going to shock the American people. Look, based on the records that we already have, and this is a significant undercount, by the way, 75% of the Somali population in Minnesota is on welfare. But that's likely a significant undercount of just how much of a financial burden the Somali refugee population is imposing on this country.
So Stephen Miller gets the last word here, and I think he will get the last word on this argument. Everything we've seen out of Minnesota and the Somali fraud scandal points to everything Stephen Miller says there being absolutely true. But then again, he is just like a Nazi, a Jewish Nazi, of course. Let's go to the state of Maine, where another Islamist who has made her way into the American political scene is State Representative Mana Abdi. She discussed recently what it was like getting off the boat from her home country.
Anything. So coming into the States, everything from the snow to, the housing, the homes that we were all of a sudden occupying, everything was a shock, honestly. Every day was something new, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just getting worse. Yeah,
So, what state did you guys land, first of all?
Kansas.
Kansas City.
Of all places. Yeah, it was like a boot camp for Maine, basically.
All right.
There's Mana Abdi, who is a Somali immigrant, a state representative in the state of Maine, complaining about how bad it was when she got here compared to Somalia, and how terrible it was, and that living in the state of Kansas was like boot camp to prepare her for Maine, the state that she now represents, for reasons. They don't like it here. They don't want to be here. They hate it. Send them all back. When we come back, not again in Charlotte, North Carolina, plus some holiday mirth for you, Christmas mirth for you, to be more precise. That's coming up next. I want to remind you, today's episode brought to you by Conduit Clothing Company. You'll want to check out their entire catalog of clothing. They've got some new options available now that we're all the way into winter, including a really cool looking stocking cap, the Conduit Clothing New Era ribbed tailgate beanie, among other items. Evan said he put one in the mail. I will give you a review as soon as possible. It looks really, really nice, and I can't wait to wear it. Just like I can't wait to wear every item of clothing that I've been privileged to trial for you. I just can't emphasize enough the hooded sweatshirt is so comfortable. I've even washed it a couple of times, and it's still incredibly soft. It's my go-to hooded sweatshirt right now. And I think that's what you're going to find with all of the options, their entire catalog of clothing, very high quality. But you know what's even more high quality is the mission of the company. Every single order ships with a hardcover ESV Bible for you not to keep but to give away, when inevitably that evocative logo leads to some spiritual conversations. So find out what it means to be a conduit for Christ at conduitclothing.com. Use the promo code AMUpdate for 10% off of your order. Conduitclothing.com. Use promo code AMUpdate. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin made this announcement the other day. Quote, Oscar Gerardo Solorzano Garcia, an illegal alien from Honduras, is being charged with attempted first-degree murder after he stabbed a victim with a large knife on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. Immigration and Customs Enforcement lodged a detainer to ensure this criminal illegal is not released back into North Carolina neighborhoods. Unfortunately, we cannot guarantee the county will honor the detainer since they have a history of not cooperating with ICE. His criminal history includes prior arrests for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, destroying evidence, resisting arrest, using a false identification, and convictions for robbery and illegally re-entering. This criminal illegal alien was issued a final order of removal by an immigration judge in 2018 and removed by the Trump administration on March 9th of 2018. He was apprehended illegally crossing the border again in 2021 and was again removed. He entered the country illegally for a third time at an unknown date and location. Again in Charlotte, North Carolina, somebody stabbed on the light rail by an illegal alien who was already deported. And now Department of Homeland Security through Tricia McLaughlin is telling us they're not sure if the Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainer will be honored by the county even after Irina Zarutska. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable. Any single politician who played a part in this just wicked, wicked man continuing to breathe the free air of our country, they need to be on trial for their life. And I'm not really saying anything that should be that controversial. Well, neither is Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt, who joined ABC's This Week on Sunday to discuss the ongoing pearl clutching when it comes to the strikes on narco-terrorist drug boats carried out by the Trump administration and the Pentagon. Once again, he might be one of our best senators. Here's Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt.
What's telling here is to try to imply that somehow President Trump is soft on drug smuggling is just ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. He's provided border security like we've never seen before. And the fact is, these cartels now, because the southern border is closed, they've gone to the high seas. So President Trump is acting with his core Article 2 powers. No serious legal expert would doubt that the president has authority to blow narco-terrorists out of the water who are poisoning 100,000 Americans every year. If you watch the SEC championship game yesterday, the Big Ten championship game, combine those two stadiums with the number of people there, that's how many people are dying each and every year from the poison that's coming from these narco-terrorists. So the fact is, George, President Trump has been delegated the authority by Congress to designate terrorist organizations. He's done that. He sent a letter to Congress saying he was going to initiate these strikes. We've had regular briefings about it, including from Secretary of State Rubio, including from the high-ranking officials in the Department of Defense. He's executing those. And so now what we have now are Democrats who have such X-ray vision and clairvoyance that they know the intentions of narco-terrorists on boats, yet we're so blind to see that they had a president for 4 years that was operating as a vegetable in Joe Biden. So, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that this isn't all about politics and trying to take out Secretary Hegseth. That's what this whole thing's been about, George. They didn't want him confirmed. They didn't want a realist in place. They didn't want to shift from their pet projects around the world and trying to build democracies in the sands of the Middle East by the barrel of a gun. We have core national interests at stake, the homeland in the Western Hemisphere, and the rise of China. That's what this administration is focused on. The Democrats are just upset about that, and they try to create some controversy each and every week, and it goes nowhere.
Eric Schmitt, senator from Missouri, with the best messaging on this ongoing fake, phony latest hoax that Democrats are trying to engage in, to the point of basically calling for insurrection and sedition. The only thing that could have been better about that is that he should have said Democrats are just doing this for all of the reasons he listed, and to distract from the fact that come first quarter of next year, first few months of the year, people are starting to feel the benefits in their pocketbook from the one big, beautiful bill. So, because I think that's part of this as well. Finally, want to give you some housekeeping notes. This is going to be the final week of full programming on the AM update until after Christmas, unfortunately. Got some busy times ahead over the next couple of weeks in the day job. Also, I've produced over 250. By the time this is done, I will have produced over 250 to 260 unique programs on this podcast channel for this year. So I think I'm doing okay. That vastly outpaces even what we're contractually obligated to do on my day job. So I think we're good. My goal this week for this final segment, or final segments, depending on what I find, is to bring you some holiday mirth, some Christmas cheer. And what better way to kick this off than with Creed?
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let Rudolph join in any reindeer game. in one foggy Christmas Eve. Oh, Santa came to say, can you take me higher to a place where snowmen...
I know that went viral last year. I've listened to that several times, and I laugh it's amusing during the verse, but then when you get to the chorus, I laugh every single time. That's from the TikTok account there. I ruined it. Whoever is behind that account is incredibly talented. Creed meets Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and this is where we meet the end of today's episode. Back at it again tomorrow. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.